Hi there, we'll get started in just a minute. Just checking my settings real quick. All right. So we're about 3 after. I was having problems getting joined from my phone, but I finally got in. So I wanted to talk today about objections because I did my Portland training the other day and it came up and I didn't get to spend a lot of time on it. And I figured like this is probably a good conversation to have with people. And yeah, I just got back from vacation, so I really don't have much makeup on. I don't have any lip color on. I'm sitting on the floor because this is where I have good lighting in my house. So I want to start out with kind of objections and why people object. So I think that we assume that because somebody says, oh, well, what about the price? The price feels high, that they really feel like the price is high. And I would say that a lot of the times, like I make objections to things and like I say things just because it's the first thought that enters my head. And for some people, when they say, oh, it costs too much, like they really mean it. But for most people, they just haven't gotten used to the idea yet. So I would say that out of most of the time, when people come up with these objections or questions, it's really just kind of like the first thought that entered their brain. And it's really not as big of a deal as we make of it. So when our customer says, ooh, the price is kind of steep, and we're like, oh my God, they don't think this product is worth it. And I need to give them, 15 different graphics about how the price per ounce is less than the store brand. And I need to talk about how we don't spend all that money on packaging. And I need to talk about how we only use it once a day so it'll last them 6 months. And so we kind of tend to like vomit all over them, all of the things, and it becomes really overwhelming. When I address an objection, I tend to respond to it very directly and, minimize it like, oh yeah, I kind of thought so too. So what color do you like? You know what I mean? Like you don't have to really, dig in and address every single objection, because the nature of objections is that people just kind of are trained to object to things, especially when they feel like they're being sold. And a lot of times this thing that they're saying to you isn't really all that important. So I even do that when I'm working with distributors. Sometimes I'll receive a message and there's like 800 complaints in it and they're pissed about this, that, and the other. And if I sat there and I took the time to respond to every single bullet point, it would make things worse. Most of the time I'm like, oh, I know, it totally sucks. So how was your weekend? You know what I mean? Like you don't have to like dig down and engage with people every single time that they object to something. So I'll go through some specific objections here in a minute, but I really want to talk about kind of philosophically, not to freak out when people object to you, they object to the product, they object to the price. And then I think one thing that we have a tendency to do is that we tend to view questions as objections. So you may post about Lip Sense and said, what's in this stuff? And we read objection. Oh my gosh, they are going to have a problem with the ingredients. And then we kind of freak out and we get in this mindset that this is an objection. And it was just a question. People ask questions before they buy things. I do. I think you do too. And we can either find that information on our own or we can ask somebody else to provide it to us. And I think a lot of people will ask, yeah, what's in this? Because obviously the technology is totally different than what they're used to. And then you send them an ingredient list and they look at it and it's Greek and they're like, all right, you know what I mean? Like they don't know what those ingredients are. I don't know what those ingredients are. So I think that a lot of times we receive questions and then we perceive them as objections, and then we'll get kind of like defensive or feel rejected, and it kind of gets to us personally and like we feel weird about it. So I think my first biggest piece of advice is that when you receive an objection or a question from somebody, don't take it too seriously. Like, obviously you're going to respond to people and respond to them honestly and everything, but don't like let it upset your apple cart emotionally, like, and mentally, that somebody had a question for you. And then some people are really strong about their objections. I'm going to be really honest, and there are a lot of people out there who just aren't very nice. You know what I mean? They're just like not nice. And people, like, I'm real friendly, and the way I pose questions to people is generally very friendly and conversational, but some people just really come off very brash, and it's really not that they have like a genuine issue. It's just kind of their personality. So I wouldn't worry about that either. Like when people come off kind of like, ooh, what's going on here? It's like, just don't worry about that. That's just maybe their personality. That may be just who they are as a person, and that is okay too. So my next thing on objections is how to address them. And this is kind of an extension of the first thing, is not to make a huge deal out of stuff. So when somebody asks you a question, I would respond to it generally pretty directly and then move on from it. Like, I don't spend a ton of time on proving my product is worth the price. I don't spend a lot of time proving why I believe the ingredients are perfectly safe. I don't spend a lot of time, really on any of these objections. So the way that I generally tend to address things is when somebody objects to me about price or about ingredients, I don't say, well, you should think about it this way, or you should do this, or you should do that. I just say, really, yeah, I had kind of the same first thought, but I feel like it's worth it. I love the product. And then I'll just move on. Like, I don't feel like it's necessary to just continue to like hammer people. I don't think that people need, I don't think they want to be convinced. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to be sold something. They don't want to be convinced. So I generally just tell people how I feel about it and how I made the decision that I made. And then I leave it like, and this is your decision. And then I move on to the next thing. It's the same thing with ingredients. I have never had an in-depth conversation with anybody about ingredients. And part of it's probably my regional area in Texas. We're just like, make me pretty, I don't care. And I know that I have girls, especially in, the Pacific Northwest, where people are very ingredient conscious. So, you could spend hours and days and on the EWG Skin Deep site and, Googling and doing all the things. But the way that I actually make a decision about this is I just say, hey, yeah, I totally understand using ingredients that are good for your body. For me, I compared Lip Sense against most store brands and feel that it's incredibly well put together. It's 98% natural, 2% science. And the only point I hit on any of this is that just because something is man-made does not mean it is bad for you. And just because something comes from the earth does not mean it's good for you. So when I hear somebody say that I only use all natural products, I'm like, yeah, I've considered that as well. The reason I don't do that is because there are things that come from the earth that are poison and things that come from man that are good for us. So I am comfortable with our ingredients, and I'm comfortable with my daughter using them as well. So, and then that's like how I leave it. And if they want more information on ingredients, I shoot them like a little thing with the graphic with the ingredients. And if they come back and they're like, I'm on EWG Skin Deep and I see this, and they fed a rat 6 pounds of this product and it gave the rat cancer, and I don't really know about this, like, next. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to spend time on that. I'm not going to ever have an answer that satisfies them. So if they've gone so far down that path and they're, talking about the testing for this one ingredient, and realizing that when they test these things, they test them in very large amounts on very tiny rodent subjects. So pretty much anything 6 pounds worth on a rat is going to cause cancer. It's just kind of is what it is, right? So I don't really spend a lot of time on ingredients either. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, especially on ingredients, is I don't introduce objections. So in my parties, I don't post anything about the ingredients. So I think that when I started out posting like, here's an ingredient list, and here's why this is great, and here's this information. I actually don't post anything about that until somebody asks me, and then I provide them the ingredients. And then if they come back and have a question about a specific ingredient, that's when I'm like 98% natural, 2% science, This is why I made this decision for my family. And then I move on from it. I don't have to get somebody to agree with me for them to buy my product. Most of the time they buy it anyways. So even if they see something in there that they're like, oh, I'm curious about that, send them the ingredient list and be like, yeah, I really encourage you to make an informed decision. And if it's not right for you, that's okay too. And then you just kind of move on from it. And half the time they'll just go ahead and purchase anyways. And then the other thing is sometimes people say stuff that's really dumb, like just dumb. Like I was talking to my sponsor and one of her other direct downlines was in a hair salon. And this girl was like, yeah, I heard Lip Sense basically has the same ingredients as lighter fluid in it. And her downline is like getting her hair done. And so she messaged her. She's like, what? So Angela goes and looks up the ingredients of lighter fluid. There are 2 ingredients in lighter fluid and neither of them are in Lip Sense. So like people just say dumb shit sometimes. You know what I mean? They just say it to say it, or they heard something and they took it as fact when it wasn't. So occasionally you will have to like come up against something ridiculous. And when I hear something ridiculous, I'm like, no, girl, that does not sound right to me. And then I just move on from it. You could definitely like look it up or do whatever, but no, girl, that does not sound right at all. And you could just like not even worry about it. So the other thing on introducing objections is not only on like choosing what you're going to post in your party. There's a difference between like getting out ahead of something and introducing objections. So like for me, I feel like posting ingredients is going to introduce questions and objections because the list of ingredients is not going to make any sense to anybody. I've been doing this a year. I still don't know what any of that stuff is. Like none of it. I have no idea. I'm fine. It makes me pretty. I haven't died yet. Like I'm okay. So I don't post ingredients because nobody's going to look at that and be like, oh, I know what all that is. And I feel perfectly comfortable with it. They're going to ask you questions. Like, I don't know. They're going to look at acrylates and be like, isn't that paint? I'm like, I don't think so. But I really have no idea what any of this stuff is, except that I'm entirely comfortable after being in our groups and reading about our products. And like a Crown Princess that's a friend of mine is a health coach and like a nutrition coach. And she's explained 100 times while she thinks our ingredients are incredibly safe. I still don't get it. I don't understand it. And I don't care. So that's when I just tell people, I'm like, yeah, I'm actually entirely comfortable with our ingredients, even though I don't understand what all of that is, because I don't understand what everything is in my shampoo either. And I'm okay with my shampoo. Like, do you know what all the stuff in your shampoo is? And then you're going to run across the occasional person who like makes their own shampoo and everything. And I will tell you, this product is not for everybody, right? So there are going to be some people who are like, I only use all organic natural hemp oil on my lips. And you're like, cool, next. So there's just, you don't have to like worry about overcoming everybody's objections and like stressing yourself out about it, because most of the time they're just saying things to say things and they're not really that worried about it anyways. And if they are really, really worried about it, you're probably not going to convince them otherwise anyways. I think about it this way. So arguably iPhones are the best phones on the planet, right? I mean, I'm sure that there are people out there who could object to that or whatever, but I mean, it's like the best phone out there. It's the most technologically advanced. It has most features. It's the most popular phone in the world. And yet half of the world's population does not own one, including me. Right? So when you're out there and you're presenting Lip Sense to people, just know that not everybody is going to decide to do it. And what you can't do is like let that bum you out or feel like there's an issue with the product if you can't sell to every person out there who you present the product to. As a matter of fact, I would say that out of the 400 people or so in my beauty group, I've probably 100 of those at this point are distributors, but I've been doing this a year and I've probably converted about a third of the people in that group into a customer or distributor in a year, 33%. And that's good. I have like 40 distributors or something on my first line. I have a pretty loyal customer base. I've pretty well mined my group of 400 people, and maybe a third of them have converted into either a customer for a distributor under me. And then I've got other people in there that are distributors, you know, in my downlines who like to be in to kind of see what I do. So I would not like get wrapped around the axle. And I see people getting kind of wrapped around the axle on this because they're like, yeah, you know, I had a party and somebody, you know, they didn't buy because of the ingredients and I'm just not sure I can do this. Like it kind of shakes them mentally when they receive an objection. And it's just like a mental thing. Like if you approach it like only a percentage of the people I present this product to are going to want to purchase it, you'll feel a lot better about the whole situation when somebody rejects your product, and they are not rejecting you when they reject your product. So when I tackle an objection, I hit it very simply, I respond to it directly, and then I move on from it. And sometimes I don't even respond to every objection. You know, when people are just making kind of these throwaway comments, I will a lot of times ignore an objection the first time it comes up and then only discuss it like the second time. It's the same thing when I'm working with downline distributors. Like they may make an off the hand comment about out of stock and I may not even respond to it. And not that I don't respond to their message, it's that I don't really necessarily acknowledge that thing and I talk about something else. And then if they bring it up to me again, like, hey, Kristen, you know, I'm really frustrated about out of stock. You know, what do you think? And then I'll address it with them. But like the first time that somebody brings up like a, you know, like a throwaway comment about something, I don't even think you necessarily even need to dig into that immediately. So I am going to look at my participants. We've got a pretty good list here. And I'm going to invite y'all to, let me look at the chat real quick. I'm going to invite y'all to either message me or unmute yourself and talk about some of the objections that you've gotten. And let's talk about like kind of what those look like now that we have a little bit of a foundation on, you know, what's a true objection? How do we, you know, kind of decipher what's a true objection and what's not, and dig in maybe a little bit further, like especially on like price and things like that. What are y'all's most common issues that y'all run into? Karina, I see that you're not on mute, but I can't hear you if you're talking. And then I've got my chat pulled up if anybody wants to ask about a common objection that they run into in the chat.
Hey, can you hear me?
Now I can.
It's Amy.
Hey, go for it.
So I have not from a customer, but I have had a couple of my distributors say, oh, I'm just, you know, I'm going to wait this out while we're in this out of stock situation. I'm just going to set it out because I'm just too frustrated with not being able to get colors. And it's so hard for me not to scream at them because I'm like, so many of us are still advanced, you know, rank advancing, selling product, still running our businesses. We have to do it a little differently than we did in the beginning. And so like, I know, like I say what I say sometimes, but I think like, I'm just like, okay, well, that's entirely up to you. And that's all I can say. But what's your response to that?
You know, I actually don't get a whole lot of people that are messaging me that on my first line, at least, because most of my a lot of my first line was established before out of stock really started making a difficulty. And then all the ones that I have brought in since then, I was really, 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 really upfront about it before I onboarded them. So I do get that sometimes. I usually get it a little bit from my lower lines just because I'm in like a lot of, you know, contact with my first line. Like I think that we're pretty much on the same page about the whole out of stock situation. But I would say that I really approach it like you do. I just like, hey, yeah, you know, this is how I make it work right now. And this is how I see girls making it work. And I really would hate for you to stop working at your business and take a big fat pause, because the way I see it is like the stock market, right? So if you look at a stock, like down here is the lowest price, up here is the highest price. This is when it's proven it's profitable. If you get in down here, you get the profit between the two. If you get in up here, then you only get this profit. So I feel like when people decide that they're going to wait, that they are going to miss out on profit and distributors, because people are signing up every day. They're signing up under somebody. So if they're not signing up under you, they may be signing up under me, because I have people coming to find me on YouTube for my training videos, and they sign up under me because they do want to try it. So again, I don't ever approach anybody like, this is what you need to be doing. And I am very realistic about the fact that this is not for everybody right now. This is hard work. Like, I've missed Purple Rain 3 times. It's been pulled out of my cart and checking out 3 times in a row. And somebody else might have thrown their phone at a wall. I'm not like that. That's not who I am. So I can kind of, whatever. I just don't have any Purple Rain. I don't know when I will. That's okay. I'll, sell Lexiberry or whatever. So I understand it's not for everybody right now. But I do, give them kind of the analogy of, this time is going to pass anyways. And customers are buying product every single day, and distributors are signing up every single day, and people are ranking up every single day. So if you pause and you take a big step back, all of that activity is still happening, and it's all going to be happening under other people. You don't even have an opportunity to take advantage of the momentum that we have right now. And then another thing is like collecting stories. And anecdotally, I have a girlfriend named Kristen Barnett, and she is, I think, a princess now. And so, taking it back way old school, I had gotten a lip sense color and gloss from my sister-in-law, and she worked at a med spa, and she sold it in their retail location, and the guy who owned the med spa decided to close it. He didn't want to do it anymore, and she had product at her house. So I was leaving after staying the weekend with her, and she called me. She said, hey, grab a color and a gloss on your way out the door. Oh, I think you'll like lip sense. So I grabbed a Fire and Ice and a matte gloss, and never talked to her about it again, because I totally forgot. I tried it once. I thought it was terrible because I had no instructions. I was using matte gloss alone. I didn't even know I had to reapply the gloss. Like, I left it at home. I didn't understand why it was so flaky and dry. So I didn't use it at all. So I get added into a Facebook party under my friend Kristen Barnett. And on Facebook parties, you receive good instructions and exfoliation and how to apply. So I ordered a pearl gloss and like 3 more colors of a product I didn't even like because I have issues. I don't know. So I ordered 3 colors and a pearl gloss, and I try it again. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So Kristen, I was like posting selfies into her group. And at the time, like, I recognized that as somebody who could potentially be a distributor for me. And I recognize that now. At the time, though, she had been doing lip sense for a little while. They had this like free sign up month, and they had a huge influx of distributors, and their stock cratered. It was a really frustrating time. And this was before I signed up. Things got a little bit better when I signed up, but they had this period of time where it was really difficult. So instead of trying to recruit me out of that party or anybody else, she decided she was going to quit because of out of stock, and she did. So she, I don't know that she went completely inactive or not, but she didn't try to recruit me. And if she had, I might have done it. I ordered several colors from that party and decided against ordering more colors because it was so expensive, and I didn't really have the money to do it at the time, to just buy whatever I wanted. And I'm a crown princess. So like, if she had just stuck with her business and had recruited people and had stayed with her business, then she probably would have been in a lot different position than she is right now. And so she's done a lot of work, because she was like, wow, I really missed the boat on this. And her upline, Amy Tipton, they signed up at like the same time, and Amy Tipton hit Crown Princess even earlier than I did. So she really missed the boat. And so anecdotally, like, I know about that story, and I know how Kristen just preaches from the rooftops, don't let out of stock stop you, because you will be in a position where you are trying to like recreate what you should have been doing a long time ago. So like, I feel really passionate about it, because I'm like, if you ever think you want to work this business, please go ahead and keep working it now, because all of that activity is happening whether you're involved or not. So she wasn't involved, and I did order from somebody else. I did host a party under somebody else. I did sign up under somebody else, and Angela Davis is a queen now. and left her law firm job, and so did I. So I think that things could have played out differently for Kristen had she stayed with it. But God has his plan for everybody, so who knows? But that's like an anecdote that I do like to share with people when they're thinking about, taking a step back because it's inconvenient.
Thank
And
you.
then another point is, frankly, starting a business is hard. All right. So what other objections are y'all running into kind of on the regular that drive you crazy? Or even like little stuff that keeps coming up. So I think the first one I always hear about is, oh, price, people don't think it's worth $25, or the people I'm selling to are broke, or any of that kind of stuff. Actually, when I put the price up there, I just put a price list up and it's $25. And if people say something about the price, this is one of those times where the first time somebody says something about price, I just kind of move on from it. If they bring it up another time or they haven't placed an order, that's when I'll kind of address it. And generally, I just leave it like, yeah, price per ounce, it's actually less than what you pay for a convenience store brand or a drugstore brand. And I just kind of leave it at that. I think that we tend to get a little like desperate looking when we post pricing graphics and all of these comparison charts, and then we put it up against all the other brands, and I think it creates objections, to be honest. Like, I would much rather just, the price is the price, and then if something around the price, then I need to address it. The other thing I see people do is like, yeah, lip color is $25. But it'll last you 6 months of daily use, and it doesn't have all this packaging, and they kind of like word from it like they justify it, and it sends them a red flag to the customer. That was a weird noise. Someone trying to talk? Hey, Erin. Yeah, so parabens, I don't understand a lot about, except that there is a lot of media hype around parabens. So I have actually personally never gotten a paraben objection, but I've seen it around a bunch of times, Erin. And the main punchline that I've gotten on parabens, it's like people telling you eggs are bad for you. That there's like a lot of controversial research, and that people just kind of caught on to a marketing thing about parabens. But our product does include parabens. And because I don't know a lot about the science behind it, that's when I'm like, yeah, our stuff includes parabens. I don't think that the research supports that they're as bad as people think they are. But if that is a drop dead thing for you, then this may not be the product for you. And then it either is or it isn't, because I don't really think that we have to be chemists. And if somebody has like a firm objection to parabens, our stuff has parabens in it. So you're probably not going to be able to convince them otherwise anyways. Okay. Let me check the chat really quick. All right. What else do y'all have? I'm going to mute everybody. Okay, so I just muted everybody real quick. And if y'all need to unmute yourself to ask a question, just hit unmute for me. Let's see if there's anything else. Price and ingredients are really I guess the two biggest objections that I get. Oh, saturation. Yeah, I've definitely heard of that one. Okay. So that one actually got brought up this weekend while I was gone, and I've actually had several people ask me about that. So again, here I kind of collect stories and anecdotes. So the first way I present it to people, I'm like, yeah, that's really interesting about the whole saturation thing, because it's funny because I will hear of people who have never heard of lip sense before 9 times out of 10, and then 1 time out of 10, they have. So my own experience is that we are way far away from being anywhere near saturation. My second observation is Texas is by and large the largest distributor base for lip sense. There's like Texas, Oklahoma, and Utah, and they all have really big teams growing in them. And despite the fact that we have a great big team in Texas, we still make up less than like 0.01% of the adult female population. So 99.99% of the population is not selling lip sense, and that's a lot of lips. So I don't worry about it from that perspective. And then the third thing I can rely on when I'm talking to people is making an example out of Mary Kay. Mary Kay has been around forever. Everybody has heard of Mary Kay. Everybody knows somebody who sells Mary Kay, and still people sign up for Mary Kay every single day and create successful businesses. I've got a girlfriend who does Mary Kay, and she's, an executive director or something like that. And that is really, like, she has a great and successful business selling Mary Kay. And Mary Kay is like the most, I would say, popular or most well-known direct sales cosmetics brand out there. And they've been around a really long time. So for me, when somebody says saturation, that doesn't feel like a real objection for me, just because I know that, there is so few distributors collectively across the United States. And then the other thing that I know is that a lot of our crown princesses all live within a few miles of each other. In DFW, we have like 15 crown princesses and above in a very small area, and I cross paths with them almost never. You know what I mean? Like, I don't run into people who are like, I occasionally run into people who are distributors already, but mostly I run into people in distributor groups. You know what I mean? Like, most of the people that are on my Facebook profile, like my friends outside of my lipstick empire, are not mutual friends with any of these people. So even though geographically we're close together, I don't run into that a whole lot. I saw another question. Let me pop back up into the chat really quick and see. So saturation, yeah, like that's a definite objection that people throw up about distributorships. And my personal feeling on it, and this is how I phrase things when I talk about objections, is my personal feeling on it is that we are a decade or more from anything even remotely resembling saturation. Okay, so the next is, I can't get anyone to host an in-person or Facebook party. What do you suggest? Actually, there is the cutest trick on the planet. If you are making any sales at all, and if you have anything in stock at all, you can, when you're getting ready to send out your orders, grab a handful of colors and take a picture of them and send it to the person that you're about to mail their order. And you're like, hey girl, I can give you a free color in your order. I'm about to mail it out right now. Shipping is already paid, or you have free shipping. I can put a free color into your bag right now. And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, how? And you're like, all you have to do is do a Facebook party. I've got this Thursday open, or Sunday, which works better for you? And I know that sounds crazy, but it works. Stephanie Bowler-Jack is like, this was her brain baby. She's on my first line. And so she told my team about doing that. And so I have suggested that, and I've tried it a few times myself, and it works. Cassie Smith just posted earlier today that she did it, and she's booked like 4 parties this month. And I think there's some psychology around this, right? Because there are colors that they want, and they don't necessarily want to pay for them. And if you've got a color like hanging above their bag, like, that's a pretty big carrot. Like, I can put this in your bag right now. You don't have to wait. You don't have to order anything. You don't have to pay for anything. I can put this in your bag right now and send this to you. And all you have to do is a Facebook party. I mean, how easy can that be? And then the other question I get when I talk about that methodology is, what do you do if you send them a color and they don't actually go through with the party? And I asked Stephanie about that too, because she does this like all the time. This is a routine for her with every order she sends out. She, looks for the Facebook party that way, and she has never had somebody not follow through with their party. Inevitably, if I say that, the first person you do this with will not follow through with their party. But if you look at things on a very large scale, I would say that unless you have some pretty sketchy friends, most people are going to follow through with it. So if you lost 1 color out of 10 and you get 10 parties out of it, you're probably okay. So I tell people, like, not to get like micro focused on every dollar in their business. I mean, protect your profit margin, be a savvy business person, but don't cut off your nose to spite your face on being concerned with loss. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be a little breakage every once in a while. If you do this, you may send out 10 colors and do 10 Facebook parties, and one person doesn't follow through with it. But if you don't do it at all, you missed out on the other 9 parties. So looking at things on a bigger scale will generally help you with thinking about kind of those things. And I occasionally advance collections to people. So I'll have people who will contact me. They're like, man, I really want to sign up. I really want to do this. I haven't tried the product yet. I don't have $110 to spend on signing up and a collection, and then especially if it's somebody that I know personally really well, I'm like, okay, I'm going to send you a starter collection. You can check it out. And then after you have tried it out, you can either sign up and replace it for me, or you can just send it back to me and I'll, RMA the product. It's basically, it's the customer satisfaction RMA. If they try it and they don't like it, it's the same as buying it and trying it and not liking it. So I will RMA for customer satisfaction in that instance. And I have only had one person send a collection back that way. And that has been part of my sponsoring for a lot of people, including my Crown Princess, Jessica. So she just kind of like wasn't in a position to sign up and buy a collection and buy stuff. So I advanced her a collection. She loved it. She signed up. She replaced it for me right away. And my Crown Princess. So that's another thing that I do to invest in my business. That is a little bit of a risk, right? Because you don't know if you send somebody the product, if they're going to mail it back to you, if they're going to replace it, if they're going to sign up. You don't really know. But they also know that you have entrusted them with product. And I think that they feel, kind of an emotional obligation to follow through. So that's another thing that I do. So let me go over to the chat and see what I've missed here. So you're saying in Arkansas that they have a different culture, very difficult to sell a kit sometimes, even with the gloss and the color. Yeah, I would say that, it could be. You just, be selling to a group that's kind of broke. I haven't run into that personally, but I, am in my mid-30s. A lot of my counterparts are in their mid-30s, well established in their careers. So it may be more about you finding a pocket of people that are finding somebody who is your ideal customer and then ensuring that, you have like a Facebook party for them and then trying to mine demographics that work for you. And then the other thing I would really suggest is not being too focused on, if you selling in your backyard is a great thing. Like having all of your neighbors know that you're the lip sense lady, all of that is a good thing. But if you find that you're struggling in your backyard, using social media to reach outside of that is a good thing. And then also what you can do is if Facebook has all of these relevancy algorithms. So if you go through your Facebook friends list and you see people that you think would be ideal customers, click on them and go interact with them. I wouldn't even say anything about lip sense or, beauty stuff or even hint at trying to do this with them. I just go interact with them. So that way somebody will go ahead and let me think about this for a second. I got a couple of messages and it derailed me. So that way they see your posts. When you interact with people, they see your posts. And when you interact with them, you see their posts. So especially if you have friends and you realize you haven't seen anything from them in a long time, it could be that they're not posting. But if you click on their Facebook feed and you realize they have been posting, you're just not seeing it, just go through and comment on some of their stuff, send them a PM, just say hello. You don't have to bring up your business unless they ask. But if you start interacting with people, they'll start seeing more of your posts, which is why it's important to post on your personal timeline. Let's see, do I use the hostess rewards that are in the beauty book? I don't actually. The reason I don't is because I feel like it's confusing. And I don't feel like when I am offering somebody a reward for doing something for me that they should have to spend money to receive their reward. I know a lot of people that use the hostess rewards straight out of the book and that works for them. I didn't like the hostess rewards when I was hosting a party, a Facebook party. So I do mine differently for a couple of reasons. So the first is I like the simplicity of my reward structure. I'll tell you here in a second. The second is a lot of my customers are into skincare and things like that, or they have a lot of lip sense colors and maybe they're interested in products other than lip sense. So I do one free color for hosting, and then I do a $20 product credit for every $300 sold. So reasonably, if somebody has a $600 party, they can get $40 in free product plus a lip color without having to spend any extra money. Now, the other advantage to having not as exciting hostess rewards is they're a lot more likely to sign up. But honestly, if I'm looking at a $600 party and I'm like, hey girl, you could place this order and you would get 40% off, which means that you could put $240 in your cart for yourself, or I can give you your $40 product worth. And they're like, So $240 of free product or $40 of free product. I think I'll sign up. So even with a generous reward structure that is very like just product credit driven, I find that a lot of people end up signing up anyways. All right, what else? I've got the chat up, so if you have something that you want to put in the chat, I can see it really easily. Oh, on the Hostess rewards, it's a free lip color, $20 product credit for every 300 spent, and a free gloss for every 2 parties booked. So if you have a new customer that really wants a color and a gloss, really work with them. The real trick to Hostess parties isn't just having a good reward structure, it's communicating a good reward structure and communicating exactly what they can do to make their party great. So I'm like, if you want your party to be great, like what is your goal? Do you want $100 in free product? That's not unreasonable. We can get you there, but these are the things that you need to do. You need to post 3 to 5 times a day. I need you to tag people in my posts, especially in contests. I need you to tag them and ask them questions so they'll comment. I need you to reach out to them personally. Like these are the things you can do to get yourself to a $1,200 party and get, $80 in free products plus a lip color. So I really, really, really coach my hostesses on exactly what they need to be doing. The most important thing I need them to do is post 3 to 5 times a day and tag good leads, like people they think will really like the product in various times throughout the party, and reach out to them personally. And if you interact with your hostess that way, and they'll, get excited and you help them track, okay, your party's at $300. Let's go for that next 300 so you can get that extra gloss, so you can get the facial resurfacer for free, and keep, coaching them down the road in smaller manageable chunks. Hey girl, I know your party's kind of dead. I just posted something. Why don't you go and post 3 ladies that you think don't like lip sense but might like lip gloss? I just posted about lip gloss. So go tag some of your natural ladies that don't wear lip color very often, that kind of stuff. Games for in-home demos. I don't play a lot of games for in-home demos. So for in-home demos, I generally, people arrive, we mix and mingle and we talk. We do 1 game just to get everybody like seated and paying attention. And then we move into demos, striping colors on hands, finding their colors and checking them out. So for the games for in-home demos, I don't need a lot of tools in that tool belt because I only do 1 game in every demo. But the ones that I saw, like, I think the one that I like the best, Leslie did at her party, and it was like a little scavenger hunt thing for your purse, and you've got a certain amount of points for every item on the list in your purse. And then the person with the highest points and the lowest points got one. And it was like weird stuff like, do you have a lip color? Do you have a pen? Do you have a paper? Do you have a receipt? But then it had like, do you have a rock? Do you have a children's toy? Do you have gum? That kind of stuff. So it was a really cute game that anybody with a purse can participate in. And then a prize for the most points and the least points. And it gets everybody seated and like looking through their stuff and even pulling lip colors out of their purse and things like that. So I really liked that one. And it's really between that one and I think that there was like there's another one I can't remember, but you don't need a lot of games. I only do 1 game per demo, and the only reason I do that is to get people like seated and paying attention and get their focus on me without being like, okay, now sit down, we're going to do your demo, like a kindergarten teacher. So it's just a way to get them seated and focused and paying attention and looking at you. And then as soon as you award the prizes, now you're like, and now I'm going to show you how to do lip sense. All right, what else do we have? Honestly, by the time they've done 1 game, and when I do an in-home demo, I go with naked lips and I show them how to apply it and I talk them through the application process. So the acronym is SEAT, S-E-A-T. So those are the 4 things you have to talk about when you're demoing our product. The S is set. Our product is sold as a set, color, gloss, and remover. E is exfoliation period, that your lips may adjust to not having waxy buildup on them, and that may result in a little bit of, peeling and junk as the old dead cells lift away. A is the application process. I do a live application demo. I show them that they need to do 3 layers. I show them it needs to dry in between. I show them to go one direction. I show them not to rub or mash their lips. And then I show them that they need to apply their lip gloss, and that if they want a more matte look, they can just rub it in. And then the T is the tingle. It is really important that you tell people about SD40 cosmetics grade alcohol. It is the alcohol is the reason that it is liquid in the tube and dry on your lips, because it evaporates as soon as it hits. So tell people, like, this is how I explain it. I'm like, if you have clean, healthy skin on your arm and you rub an alcohol swab over it, it is not going to hurt. If you have a cut on your skin and you rub an alcohol swab over it, it's going to hurt. That's because nerve endings and alcohol don't love each other. It stings. So if applying alcohol to your lips causes burning or a tingling sensation, it is because you have nerve endings that are exposed, like a cut. And as you continue to use our product, and especially our gloss, your lips are going to recover from that and you won't feel it anymore. So when you're doing an in-home demo, I do mingling, 1 game to get them seated and paying attention to me, and then I do the demo, SEAT, sold as a set, exfoliation, application technique, and then the tingle. And then I'm like, okay, come up in like 2 or 3 people, 3 absolute maximum, and let me help you find some colors to put stripes on the back of your hand, and then we'll pick 1 for your lips. And I do it like 2 people at the time, or maybe 3 if there's like 15 people at this demo. My goal at a demo is like maybe 5 or 6 people. When you get that many people, it just turns into chaos. It's so hard to keep that in line. But I will invite people over, like just a couple of people at the time, to help them find their colors so it doesn't go insane. What else? All right. Well, we used up almost all of our time today. We're just 10 minutes. Sorry, I've got to decline a call that's coming in. So if that was all that we had on overcoming objections and some of the different questions that y'all had, just remember, just because somebody says something to you that feels like an objection, it may not be that important. You can gloss over things and not worry about them until they come up a second time. You can address it quickly and move on. And then if it's a real objection, then have that conversation with them. But don't introduce objections by over justifying, price and ingredients and things like that, because it just makes you look like you're expecting objections, and then that's what people exactly will give you. All right. Well, I hope you all have a fantastic day. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to be back on track with our training calls after being on vacation last week. And I expect that I'll be here for all of my calls next week, except for Tuesday. I finally hired a professional photographer to do like a legit headshot. So I'm going to end up doing that on Tuesday afternoon. So I'll miss my Tuesday call, but I'll be there for my Monday and Thursday. Thank y'all very much. I'll talk to y'all soon. All right.